Hello, Epic Gamers! I'll be casting another match from the from the competitive division from the last tournament, the uncast, as of yet uncast, Xnor versus Urbane match. Let's get into the first game. In the east-north corner, UrbaneOlive in Quartermaster Green, and Xnor in the southwest with Common Folk Red. Both players going Squirrel Falcon, UrbaneOlive going for his classic moles and also using Wolf with MGs, which he likes to use. UrbaneOlive doing his classic early mole rush, Xnor countering with the classic mine. This damages not only the mole but also the Warren, countering completely the rush and giving Xnor 10 extra food plus his eco advantage. Early game going a bit in favor of Xnor right now. Otherwise, the game is pretty even. UrbaneOlive eyeing up the expansion and expanding. Xnor expanding at the same time. UrbaneOlive may be trying for a mole rush, but Xnor scouts it, and he will be able to call up his army. No harm done, and both players farming up to 2 farms. UrbaneOlive up to 3. Urban slightly ahead right now in eco. Armies are equal. Ooh, Xnor going for a push while he has the same amount of units. UrbaneOlive should be able to fend him off, especially with the defensive's advantage. Both players going up to 4 warrants. And Xnor ecoing up even more, but Urban's still ahead. Well, both players are even on farms now. Xnor finally taking up to some camps, and UrbaneOlive might be eyeing up more farms, okay. And, ooh, a nice sell-off, probably to tech, maybe into the wolf now? Yes. UrbaneOlive taking into the wolf, and Xnor taking into the badger at the same time. Both tier 2s, tier 3s will come out on the same time, which gives... Well, theoretically it would give the badger the advantage, because it takes time for the wolf to buff all units, but by the time the badger walks into UrbaneOlive's base, the wolf would have buffed enough units. Urbane going into some falcons, and finally skunks as well, into his own tier 2. And Xnor going into a few falcons of his own as well. The wolf gets paid, and the badger was delayed for a few seconds, but it gets paid as well. UrbaneOlive getting ready for an attack, buying some moles. And he's probably going to head out immediately as the wolf spawns. Meanwhile, Xnor is ecoing up, going to be staying on the defensive with his badger. He doesn't even have any pigeons yet, which he should probably buy. Badger isn't really good without pigeons. And UrbaneOlive trying to get a sneaky mill out here But Xnor scouts it and sends his scamps to snipe it. UrbaneOlive gets a nice scout, but still doesn't see... Never mind, he did scout. Oh! UrbaneOlive unfortunately loses 3 farms. He buys them just as Xnor scamps arrived at the mill. And Xnor gets nice 140 food advantage. Plus, he's also ahead on eco. Xnor finally getting a few pigeons on his own, for himself. And has a few scouting mines ahead of his base. Xnor taking into even more camps and falcons, but unable to pay for all of them. And a lot of them are still building. The Badger on full rev, absolutely shredding Urbane's army. Urbane gets completely destroyed, and Xnor wins the battle. Urbane's Olive's wolf was unfortunately in the back, getting buffing his pigs, and not at the army. So when the Badger pulled up, the UrbaneOlive was actually at a huge army advantage because he lacked the wolf buff, and that is why he lost the game, unfortunately. Really well done from Xnor. Whoops. Let's go to replay number 2. Game number 2. Urbane at the south with his Quartermaster Green, and Xnor in northwest in Commonwealth Red. UrbaneOlive switching up his deck, going for Badger Owl instead of Wolf MG, and Xnor swaps his Badger for a Wolf and Pigeons for MGs. Pretty nice map for Xnor, maybe. He has a relatively defendable expansion here, while UrbaneOlive has both his starting mill and his expansion underneath some high ground, which Xnor could exploit. A bit of a lone campfire here. UrbaneOlive could... Oh! UrbaneOlive also drops his moles for some pigeons to support his badger. So he will probably not be able to sneakily take this campfire with the mole strat. Pretty peaceful early game. Nothing interesting. UrbaneOlive expanding. Both players on their first expansion. Equal warren counts, and UrbaneOlive goes into 2 farms. Xnor copies him. Mirror matchup for now, as UrbaneOlive sells to get more Squirrel Warrens out, and then sells again, and he is fully ecoed up, while Xnor opts to get into some Skunks to get some tech advantage. Skunks will be really nice on this high ground, and he will be able to well, put some early Skunk gas down before UrbaneOlive reacts, if he doesn't get scouted. But UrbaneOlive himself goes into some Skunks of his own as well, and saves up a huge amount of money and buys a Badger. Unscouted by Xnor, Xnor gets some camps and goes on a move out. While UrbaneOlive is not only taking into tier 3, but also building another mill. So Xnor is at a huge army advantage, at a minor army advantage right now, and tries to press a bit with his Skunks, but UrbaneOlive had a Skunk of his own and beats him back. Xnor goes into his own tier 3, the wolf, and even more skunks. Even more skunks. 6 is probably a bit overkill. And buy some MGs to defend. UrbaneOlive already ahead on eco, so maybe not the best idea buying defenses while you're on less bases than your enemy. I mean, your Urban should have less armies in theory, which he does. So building defenses maybe not the best idea, right? You really want to be building army or something like that in this situation. Wolf already paid for, and the Badger is almost out with some supporting Falcons. UrbaneOlive at a 4 farm lead as the 5 minute is closing in. Badger out and Owl Warren gets placed down. 2 Owl Warrens. UrbaneOlive will try to starve Xnor out. Or UrbaneOlive is playing the long game with his owls. While Xnor is going into his own expansion. UrbaneOlive almost farms up his 3rd mill. And the wolf comes out for Xnor. He might be able to push here with 2 tier 3s building for UrbaneOlive and all of Xnor's tier 2s finishing up. He does have a power spike right now. He does not have a power spike. He does have a power spike here, army. So he might be able to snipe a few farms, kill a few falcons, maybe even snipe the badger. Prod a bit with his skunks, and yeah, he's moving out right now. Unfortunately, almost splitting his army because of the wolf buff, and going into some light prodding. Unfortunately, this does nothing because of the pigeons, but the battle starts. Buffed camps almost kill the Badger, but Badger survives on the maximum rev, and both armies trade equally. It was an equal trade. UrbaneOlive, Xnor going into for round 2, tries to snipe the Badger, again unsuccessfully. Too much pigeon healing, unfortunately, and with that, UrbaneOlive's owls are out, getting a huge power spike, leaping over Xnor's army value. But it will take a few seconds until all the mice gets out, and Xnor will be able to snipe this mill maybe. Badger getting rev. UrbaneOlive chasing down the army. Mice and Badger sniping down the wolf, and that is probably GG for Xnor. Xnor losing all of his army, half of his army for free. Well, not for free, he traded a mill, but unfortunately he will not be able to defend UrbaneOlive's push, counter-attack, and UrbaneOlive takes game 2. Well, let's get into game 3. Both scores are even. UrbaneOlive spawns in the east, the Master of Moles, and Xnor spawns in the west, my arch nemesis. He has always kicked me out of every previous tourney, but yeah. He has a really good chance at beating UrbaneOlive. They are both good players. Both have beaten me quite often in the past. And yeah, let's look at the deck changes. UrbaneOlive keeping his successful deck, and Xnor swapping out his camps for some snakes, not wanting to be caught out by the Badger again, or wanting to counter the Badger better. Uneventful early game, as both players just farm up. UrbaneOlive scouts this nice campfire in the corner. He might be able to get it for free. neither player a fan of early attacking. In both previous games, both players have opted to eco instead of attacking, but Xnor doesn't have that good of a natural right now, so he opts to attack with his squirrel advantage as UrbaneOlive tries to eco. Unfortunately, not... Oh, getting one pig actually. Getting one pig. Just as the skunk gets out. Not being able to get more because of the pig support, but he takes what he can get. And now he goes into his own skunks. And going into double tier 2 even. Xnor even buying a single 2 mines, just as an early warning. Urban unfortunately doesn't scout the first mine and loses a squirrel. Avoids the second mine and starts laying down the gas. Xnor moving around the gas, unfortunately moving back through it and losing a warren and a pig, and then moves into the gas with all of his squirrels. UrbaneOlive saves the skunk with 1 HP. Xnor's tier 2 got out, but that's all he has. The skunks managed to get away from the falcon thanks to the road, and UrbaneOlive is getting ready for a second attack, follow-up attack. Xnor low on eco, and all of his warrens get destroyed. Will probably not be able to defend unless Urban fumbles the ball. Nice early warren, forward warren from Urban. Xnor trying some pre-gas, gassing these squirrels, but losing half his army to the attack and even more farms. He does beat him. Ooh, losing the falcon because of the road, that was unfortunate. And this is pretty much over, but yeah. UrbaneOlive being careful, not trying to have, not making sure he doesn't overextend. The snakes gets out now. Xnor is going to try to prod a bit to weaken the enemy's force with poison. Maybe he'll be able to snap a few squirrels. Ooh, skunk getting stuck on aggro for a sec. And unfortunately, UrbaneOlive has too many squirrels, destroys everything of Xnor, and gets the second win. Okay, let's go to game 3. Game 4. Xnor versus UrbaneOlive. UrbaneOlive is on a match point and takes the same deck again, spawning in the south. And Xnor goes back to his roots with the wolf, falcon, skunk, cam, mine, squirrel, spawning in the west. Both players have pretty relatively... Well, UrbaneOlive has a nice defensible expansion, and Xnor's expansion is a bit exposed. UrbaneOlive could also expand down south here. That's also pretty defensible and expands closer to his opponent if he wanted to be aggressive. UrbaneOlive going mill first, and Xnor going double tier 1. Xnor copying and expanding himself and going into a tier 2. Into some camps. While UrbaneOlive just farms up, selling off his second tier 2, tier 1, and going into his own tier 2, the skunks. UrbaneOlive one farm ahead. And both players farming up even more. UrbaneOlive still ahead on the farm count. UrbaneOlive cleverly selling off his squirrels to be able to forward even more farms, knowing that Xnor will not have a window to attack because the tier 1 built so fast. Xnor trying to push into Urban, knowing he sold his squirrels, seeing a window. Unfortunately, UrbaneOlive's skunks fend off Xnor's squirrels and Xnor retreats. Both players now fully farmed up second mill, have a fully farmed up second mill, and Xnor goes into more tier 2. UrbaneOlive will probably go into Badger. Yeah, waiting for the right amount of money, and drops down the Badger on 330. Xnor placing down a nice scouting mine and moving up his. Unfortunately, trading a camp for a squirrel is not worth it for Xnor. He will probably tried to. I didn't see what he tried to do. He probably wanted to snipe the Badger Warren, but got killed in the process. An unfortunate minor loss for Xnor. And Xnor goes into his own tier 3, the Wolf. Wolf definitely has a good chance against Badger with enough. When you buff Falcons with Wolf, they will be able to take down the Badger super quickly, which is really important. You don't want to have the Badger rev up. UrbaneOlive scouts the Badger, I mean the Wolf, and places down some pigeons and expands. Meanwhile, Xnor going just into more tier 2. More camps, more falcons. Both of these units work really well with the wolf because they're really strong. So when they get buffed, they get even stronger. Xnor almost losing a squirrel to the campfire. And UrbaneOlive is going to move out. Getting a nice free rev on these warrants, definitely a misplay from Xnor. Well, yeah, letting the Badger rev up like that. Waiting for the wolf to get to buff his army a bit. And then goes into a counter-attack. Fortunately, battle lasts a bit too long and the Badger gets his full rev and destroys everything Xnor has. And that's it. A victory for UrbaneOlive. 3 versus 1. Nice showing from Xnor, and even nicer showing from UrbaneOlive. Thanks for watching and see you next time.